Hello and welcome to the very first lecture type video. Totally updated, brand new. Most of it's the same that I've done for ages because it's an overview, timeline kind of thing, so the history itself stayed. But I've added a couple things at the end. So here we are. This is my environmental science, a timeline overview. So we're going to start off with Thomas Malthus. Thomas Malthus is the person who basically talked about one of the biggest issues. He saw this coming, and the basic gist is that food production is linear. Well, I should do this way. Food production is linear, and our population growth is exponential. There's only so much food that can be grown on the planet, but we keep having more and more and more people. And so the more this happens, the wider the gap and more starvation. So Thomas Malthus was the one who was saying we really need to be very careful on what we're using. So I don't know, basically, let's not be wasteful. Henry David Thoreau wrote Walden or Life in the Woods. Such a good book. Totally recommend it. Basically, the whole thing was talking about living simply and taking care of yourself. Don't use more than you need, that kind of thing. It's a respect of the planet. Then we have the very first national park. So that was Yellowstone National Park. For the record, no, I have yet to go. I desperately need to, though. It's on my list. So there we go. Then we have London fog. Here's where it starts to get interesting, and you're going to see the warped brain that I have. London fog is in 1880. Clearly, the picture from the clouds, that's not a picture taken in the 1880s. This one is later, but it's to show you how the weather system works in London, because that's what caused this issue. They were doing a whole lot of coal burning. The burning of the coal produced a toxic fog that, due to the weather system, it basically trapped it all under the clouds. And so in 3 days, about 11,776 people died due to choking on the sulfur dioxide. It was pretty bad. And you're going to see later, they did not learn their lesson. 1892, we have the Sierra Club. John Muir founded the Sierra Club, and his entire thing was saying that if you want to enjoy nature, you have to actually protect it. We have the Lacey Act of 1900. It has continuously been amended. They have kept adding more and more and more to it. Originally, it started off with you can't kill birds without paying the state. This is because the number of birds that were going extinct from over hunting. I was going to say over harvesting, but that's not the right word. But yeah, like the passenger pigeon and stuff like that, people just killed so many of them, they disappeared. So the state started to tax it in order to control how much you were able to kill. And since then, as they come up with new things, they start to amend it, and they include it under the Lacey Act in order to help protect. Theodore Roosevelt, he was President of the United States, and he is the one who is known as the father of golden age of conservation. Basically, he's the first environmental president. He's the first president of the United States who said, holy crap, we need to not just use everything, we need to protect it. We need to conserve what we have. 1903 is the first national wildlife refuge. This is Pelican Island in Florida. 1905, we've got the Forest Service, and this is where they started going, oh crap, yeah, trees do regrow, but it takes a while. We need to stop wasting all of our trees, otherwise we will have no more forest. Dust Bowl. Everybody should have learned about the Dust Bowl in your history class. This is an actual image from the Dust Bowl where you see it all just whoosh, coming at you. So what happened here is people had I don't know why I'm hooked on the phrase over harvested right now. They had over farmed the area. There's a reason that's the word, indigenous. There's a reason certain indigenous groups know to rotate their crops, or they do the slash and burn, and it's in order to put nutrients back into the soil. Soil has its own kind of special needs in order to keep it a living soil, a soil that can grow. And I'm from the US. This is my country. My family, my dad's side of the family came to the States when he was little. And so I'm a first generation American, and I was raised to love this country. However, you can 100% love something and still have to admit that there are some flaws. Americans have this tendency to decide they know best and then not actually pay attention. I can promise you, Native Americans didn't strip their soil, but we have our nice, lovely Americans who went in there and said, this is what we're going to grow, and we know the best way to do it. And it stripped all the nutrients from the soil, which kept the plants from being able to stay in the soil, kept the roots from taking hold. Then we have the drought mixed in with that, which then dried everything up. And so when the wind would come blowing through, it just took it all. And what is interesting, I'm going to use the laser pointer part on this. This is the area where it happened, but they found through, much later, they found through not quite DNA testing, but it's a scientific testing thing. They found a whole bunch of dust and dirt from here all the way over here. That's how severe it was. It wasn't just one little area. It affected a lot. All righty. DONORA, Pennsylvania, 1948. This is the first major air quality disaster. Again, it's one of those weather systems. So the weather came in, and it was almost like putting a lid on top of the city, and it trapped in all the toxins, all the crap in the air, didn't let it go away. It killed 20 people and made over 7,000 people ill. Yeah, so the temperature inversion, that's what I'm talking about. That's where it's kind of like a lid. Instead of the heat rising, it kept it down. And due to it, they actually have this thing, the sign up there to remind people about this, trying to, go, hey, let's not make this mistake again. Sand County Almanac. This is honestly one of my favorite books. I have read this so many times. So Leopold, he wrote about living on the land, how to treat the planet respectfully, use the land ethically, don't waste it, don't strip it. The entire book is like a love letter to the wilderness, and it is 100% worth reading if you respect the planet at all. Totally worth reading. London smog. I told you they didn't learn their lesson. So London smog instead of London fog. London smog, they were using coal in order to do everything, just like they did during the London fog thing. There was another weather pattern that trapped all the toxic smoke. These are actual images during this time period. Oh, just wait. I have a visual mind, so that's what I used here. So bear with me here. If most people know what an elephant looks like and just the enormity of it. So the largest elephant is about 4,400 pounds. 1 ton equals 2,204.6 pounds. Keep this in mind. I'm using this conversion so you can visualize just how much this crap was in the air. From December 5th to the 9th, about 4,000 people dead due to this fog, or smog, I should say. There were smoke throughout the air, so polluted, so toxic, that cattle were choking to death in the field, just falling over. So thick, people could not see their feet. Remember, here's the picture. That's pretty thick, okay? Here you go. In the smog, there were about 500 elephants worth of smoke particles. about 1,000 elephants worth of carbon dioxide, 205 elephants of hydrochloric acid. Let that sink in for a second. Hydrochloric acid. 7 elephants worth of fluorine compounds, 185 elephants of sulfur dioxide, which, as it mixed with the humidity in the air, turned into about 400 elephants worth of sulfuric acid. This is what was in the air. This is how come it killed so many people. Imagine just going outside, inhaling, and filling your lungs with acid. It's pretty crazy. Minamata, Japan. This one, I often do an entire presentation just on this because it is severe. It's terrifying, and people are still paying for this now. And I don't mean financially, I mean like medically. So there's a company that moved into the Minamata, Japan area and built up its plant, and everyone's like, yay, we've got it, we've got jobs, yay. But what they didn't realize was the company was just dumping all their waste product into the bay, and this was poisoning all the fish. Japan tends to be a fishing community. That's where they make their money, and that's what they eat. So people were eating all these fish that were poisoned with mercury, and they were getting various diseases, disorders. Once too many people were having this issue and somebody else was pointing it out, totally recapping this real quick, they stopped dumping it into the bay and instead started dumping it into the river. When you dump stuff in a river, it's going to go farther. So suddenly down the line, you have more and more people getting what they were calling the Minamata disease. It's a neurological thing, basically eating holes in your brain. And it was causing a whole lot of birth defects and everything. It's really, really disturbing. Silent Spring, 1962. Rachel Carson wrote this book, worth reading. Considered the mother of environmental science movement because she's the one who pointed out what DDT was doing. DDT, they used to spray in order to get rid of all the mosquitoes and insects, that kind of stuff. But there's this thing called bioaccumulation. This means that as these are eating more of these, it's accumulating more and more poisonous. So the bugs are dying, but the birds are eating the bugs. And then that's getting too much in their system, and it just keeps going up. She called it Silent Spring because her point was we were losing other animals. The birds were not laying viable eggs. The shells were too soft. A lot of them were dying. And she pointed out, when you think of a springtime morning, you normally think of hearing the crickets chirping, the birds tweeting, and all these sounds. It's just life constant. And she wanted everyone to realize how, my wording for it, how creepy and depressing it would be if you woke up one morning in the spring and you open the windows and there's no sound because all of your wildlife is dead. And that's pretty much what she was pointing out, because people thought, hey, we've got this covered. We can get rid of these pesky insects. And they weren't seeing it through. They weren't realizing all the damage they were doing. And so she was trying to, I don't know, basically make them wake up. Pollution of Lake Erie. It's still pretty bad. And when Dr. Seuss straight up mentions the pollution in Lake Erie in a book, that's really bad. How many people here realize that it was mentioned in the Lorax? Yeah, it's crazy. Population Bomb, 1968. This is a book that pointed out we have so many people, not enough food. Remember, we started with Thomas Malthus saying this. So in 1968, somebody published a book pointing this out. Tragedy of the Commons, same time period. If anyone's ever heard the whole triple down economics, where they say if this person has enough money, then all the people below them will start to have enough money. No, we're not going to go into politics. I've already said that before, but that's what this is talking about. This is talking about the fact that some people take so much and that all the others are suffering. So Tragedy of the Commons was pointing out that you have some people who have all the food for one person, and then you have other areas where there's a small amount of food for a lot of people. And yeah, there you go. I cannot say the name of this river. I never get it right, but it caught on fire. Like literally, the water caught on fire. A river should never be able to be on fire. It is not normal for water to burn, but that is how polluted this river is. It has actually caught on fire more than once. If you Google this river, you'll see, and some of the pictures, honestly, are absolutely gorgeous. It's horrible knowing what's happening, but oh my gosh, beautiful images. National Environmental Policy Act of 1969. This is the very first comprehensive environmental law. And then they started putting more and more things underneath the umbrella of this law. 1970, we finally got a Clean Air Act. This is where finally someone went, you know, maybe we should try to keep our air clean. Now, we know our air is not actually clean. We have a whole lot of crap, because when we cover policy stuff, you're going to see it's not so easy to just say we have to do this, because you have too many groups fighting for what they want. And for some reason, a lot of people seem to think industry and economy is more important than being able to breathe. I don't understand. EPA established in 1970. Nixon set this up in order to try to protect the environment. There's a lot of stuff that's gone on with the EPA. We'll get into more of that later. First Earth Day, 1970. It was April 22nd, 1970. It was a Wednesday. The entire reason is this is hippie time. They did walkouts, and that's what this was set up for. This was set up to be like a massive walkout. That's why it was on a Wednesday. The plan was at a specific time, everyone was supposed to stand up and walk out to show if we don't make a change, this is what happens. If everybody as a group gets up and shows we can just walk out, you can stop everything and show how much what you can do as a group of people. And it was phenomenal. It was huge. And it did kick into gear trying to make some changes. Now the entire point has been lost, because now when April 22nd rolls around, some people don't even know that it's Earth Day. And other places, like a lot of colleges, will celebrate Earth Day, but they will always do it on a Saturday so as not to disturb anything. And then people give up just a bunch of free crap. And it's completely lost its entire meaning. It's really sad. Clean Water Act of 1972. Yeah, it took 2 more years to realize, maybe we want clean water too. I have an extra little thing tacked on the bottom. Let's see, June 1st, 2020, Trump administration published a rule that weakened the clean water protections. And that was in April 21st, 2020. I believe our current administration is putting some of the stuff back into place. I forgot to double check what our Clean Water Act stuff was right now, but we have had decades now of, yes, we will protect this water quality. And then, well, we'll protect this part, but this company can do this, this group can do that, and this, and this, and this. And they've done like basically so many little asterisks that huge amounts of our water are still unsafe. And if anyone's heard of Flint, Michigan, you know this is a fact. OPEC oil embargo 1973. Running out. And this is something to pay attention to. So they were not shipping us oil for a while. It caused a huge issue. And currently we are working on running out of oil. For some reason, people seem to not understand the concept of non-renewable. And That's why I honestly can't understand the people who keep saying we need to stick with it. We literally are running out. You can only take so much stuff before there isn't any more. And we are rapidly getting to that point. Love Canal, 1978. You really can't make this stuff up. It's called the Love Canal, and it's from a hooker chemical company. It's insane. Basic gist here. New York, plot of land. They decide they're going to have a renewable resource type community. And they were going to make it to where it was like water powered and this and that. I think it was going to use direct current. I'd have to double check that part, but they scooped out a whole section in order to put a canal through there, and they ran out of money. They end up selling the land to the Hooker Chemical Company. The Hooker Chemical Company used it as a landfill, and they threw all their waste and buried it, and then sold off sections of the land bit by bit to different homes, people to move in. Well, it ended up poisoning a whole bunch of people, so many issues. Seriously, totally Google the Love Canal. They started getting so many issues. They found out that all these chemicals were buried under there. They said, we're going to take care of it. And they took a couple of things out, then put some more ground in there, like some more dirt, tamped it down, and then resold more buildings. This is one of those times where you have to start noticing that social justice issues are linked with the environmental issues, because it wasn't the rich people who were purchasing the land here. These were sold very cheaply. So it was people of a certain socioeconomic group that would purchase these lands and then start to suffer from the damage there. And you can't just leave, because if you just sunk all your money into buying a home and you think this is your future, and now there's all this toxic crap, you can't sell it and you don't have enough money to just move, and you're kind of screwed. It's disgusting, and it happens all the time. 3 Mile Island, 1979. This is in Pennsylvania. This is nuclear power. And at the time, it was the worst nuclear disaster. The whole thing came down, radiation everywhere, killed a whole lot of stuff. Oh, this one, 1984. This one's horrible. There was a pesticide gas leak. Gas is heavier than air, so it just dropped lower, and it killed almost 4,000 people and caused a whole lot of sickness, everything. And it's literally just from breathing. Chernobyl. Well, here's another nuclear disaster. Yes, there are shows and movies called Chernobyl Diaries and stuff like that. No, from the ones I've seen, it's not on the real stuff. But that's because I am a sci-fi nut. And so most of the ones I've seen are actually more horror movie kind of things. So there might be a good documentary out there, but I haven't seen it yet. Caused nuclear reactor melted down, and it caused all the stuff to go out. Massive amounts of radiation, loads of birth defects, lots of death. And it was so much radiation that to this day, notice that's 1986, it is now the beginning of 2023, there is still radiation in that ground. A couple of years ago, they were doing tests, because you can take a photograph and the area looked beautiful. But when you actually went there, you found out that nothing rotted. So the part of our life cycle of what rots, the old leaves and all that stuff, I can't remember the name of it right now. It starts with a D, but the stuff, maybe it is just decomposers. Anyway, this stuff doesn't exist. They could take stuff from outside the radiation area and put it in, and it would not rot. That's because there's still damage. You can't just look at something and go, see, it's all better now. It's still there. Montreal Protocol, 1987. And this is where they tried to come up with a treaty to protect our ozone layer. We discovered that the crap we were using was causing the hole to expand. And so that's when we started banning CFCs. Those are chlorofluorocarbons, and a bunch of other stuff. So anyone who is in my age group, which I am, holy crap, I'm 51. Huh, that's kind of funny. In March, I'll turn 52. Wow. But my area, I was a teen in the 80s and they used all this hairspray. It was insane. I actually didn't. I was the person with the sections of her head shaved. But most of the people I knew used massive amounts of hairspray. And it was just causing bigger and bigger and bigger hole in the ozone. And so they came up with this treaty to start to bring it down. This is back when people actually listened to some of the scientists, and it started to repair. Yay. Now, if you look at the pictures down here in the corner, yeah, there we go. I was trying to find my laser pointer again. Down here, March 26th, by the way, that's my birthday. You can see this hole right here. April 26th, same area. And oh my gosh, it was closing up. And what makes this totally fascinating, look at the dates. It was the end of March 2020, COVID hit. And it was like, wow, look, pandemic. And it was the very end of March when everybody shut down. No travel. We didn't have planes going everywhere. People weren't driving everywhere. People just shuttered and stayed at home. This, as horrible as the pandemic was, and people dying all over the planet and all of that, it gave me so much hope, because I used to think that nothing we could do would ever help our planet again. And I found that very sad. But when you made all the people stop for a month, the planet healed. It was literally healing itself. And that gave me so much hope. However, then all of a sudden stuff opened up, it went crazy again, and then it got even worse because people became even more wasteful. It was almost like, oh my gosh, I didn't move for a month. Now I have to destroy everything. Yeah, there you go. EXXON VALDEZ, 1989. This, when I was a kid, this was the worst oil disaster. We, of course, beat this with the Deepwater Horizon, which we'll get to. I really need to fix this part. I always forget I have this in here. I was living in Valdosta, Georgia when I wrote this. And so to try to see the idea of 500 miles, that would be like Valdosta, Georgia to North Carolina. Now I'm in the Atlanta area, so it's off. But anyway, whole lot of poor little animals died. It completely destroyed a lot. It was in a pristine area, and its stupid captain was drunk and ran aground and popped a hole into it, and the oil went everywhere, and you can't just pick it up. Kyoto Protocol in 1997. This is, again, another treaty where they were trying so hard to stabilize the greenhouse gases. This is when they were still trying to stop global warming. If you pay attention to news articles or any of those things, you will see they no longer say stop global warming. They say slow it down. Things like that. It's because we've gone past the point of no return. You know, we can't stop it. We have already done it. And so now we're just trying to slow it down. This one, yeah. This is just pointing out the amount of basically pollution that we throw in. The US is one of the absolute top polluters. That brings us to the Deepwater Horizon BP oil spill. Hopefully you remember this one. It happened in 2010. They decided, it's called Deepwater Horizon because they decided to drill for oil in deeper water than anyone else ever has. Big issue, a couple of them here, but the deeper you go in the water, the higher the pressure. They didn't adjust for that. And the BP company basically shut off all their safety features. They just wanted to hurry it up and get the oil going, and shortcutted as much as they could. And it caused a massive disaster, killed so many animals, so much, destroyed, well, I mean, all those people who are all about industry and economy, this destroyed huge portions of it. And it killed a few people, sickened many, 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 many more. And we're still paying for this. It is 13 years, almost 13 years later, and we still have repercussions from this. And that's really disturbing, all for oil. These are just images to make you have to see it. Fukushima, Japan, 2011. I swear Fukushima, Japan is like, if you like disaster films, they put them all together here minus a monster. It's the only one they were missing. What happened here is there was an earthquake underneath the ocean, which caused a tsunami, which is a tidal wave, which then came up onto shore and knocked out the nuclear reactors. Like, seriously, you had everything covered here. Ebola. We had an Ebola outbreak, 2014 to 16. I point this out because, well, a couple things. One, I had already read about Ebola previously. There's a book called The Hot Zone, which will give you the whole history of this. It's really fascinating. And I used to offer it as extra credit. And I had been telling my class to keep an eye on it in 2012 and 2013. And then 2014, it comes popping out. And it was scaring a lot of people because it's really disgusting. Not just disgusting, but terrifying. It basically liquefies your insides. And if anyone remembers when this was coming up, it was some cases here, some cases there. People were freaking out. They were yelling to lock down the borders of the US and don't let anybody over here. But, you know, of course, some people did come. Another interesting thing about Ebola is it's also technically an STD. They found that men can carry the Ebola virus in their sperm and spread it, which is like, wow. And if I'm not mistaken, a doctor who contracted it beat it. Like, they brought him to Atlanta because Atlanta has an infectious disease area. And so that's where they were treating the people who were American who contracted Ebola, and they brought him here to try to take care of him. He kicked it, he beat it, but his eyes changed colors, and they could tell something about the Ebola with the eyes, which I thought was interesting. That's, you know, little bits of trivia. Whew, 2018, the last male northern white rhino died. That was a sad, sad, sad day. Okay, then we've got our wildfires. I could have updated these to give you even more of the wildfires because each year they have gotten worse. Worse and worse and worse. But we're going to talk more about these in another presentation, which I think is my natural disasters and how humans make them worse presentation. But this just gives you some ideas. Arctic heat wave. The Arctic was actually on fire in, I think this was 2021 when I put this one, and it's been on fire again in the end of 2022. Coronavirus still happening. Right here, you've got this image. This is showing you from 2020. In January 20th of 2020, they knew that they were definitely here. February 15th, less than a month later, these are where you see the positive cases. March 1st, here's the positive cases. March 20th here. In 2 months, it went from here to here. Notice how small these little numbers are, though. Here it was saying at March 20th, there were 165. Actually, I think that's 165 countries. It hadn't hit everywhere yet. This one, I put this map because this is the state of Georgia. This is from August 16th, 2020, and I am in Gwinnett County. And so I looked it up here. And where is it? Confirmed cases in this county was 21,534. It is so much higher than that now. It's actually rather interesting, scary, but interesting if you keep up with the numbers, which I have since April, I think April 25th, 2020. I have kept up with the numbers. I have spreadsheets and whatnot. You'll see. That's the scary part of a pandemic, is it jumps and psh, it goes everywhere. So a lot of people are only thinking about coronavirus. They don't think about anything else. I went to the World Health Organization, and there's a hyperlink at the bottom of the slide. These are the outbreaks of just 2022. And I didn't repeat any of these. Lots of these are repeated in different countries throughout the world, but I only listed them one time. And there's a lot that's coming out. And this is part of the reason to learn a little more about environmental science, is the why this is happening. And some of the ones that concern me the most, coronavirus, of course, I should still have on here. I didn't bother putting it on here because it's still here. It pops up, goes down, up, down. It keeps changing around, same thing as the flu. But I was trying to focus on other things. There are different types of the flu. This is how come you can get more things, but it's one of the influenza A's that are popping up a lot this year. Monkeypox, I'm assuming everybody remembers when this started showing up over the summer. Measles. Measles is popping up all over the place. This we had almost eradicated through vaccines until I'd say about a decade ago, when all of a sudden there were so many anti-vaxxers and saying, I'm not going to do that, and blah, blah, blah. And by stopping vaccinating the children, we started bringing these back, and it's coming back with a vengeance. And I think a month or so ago is when we started seeing them spike again here in the US. More disturbing than that is this, polio. Polio virus is showing up in the wastewater in New York and other areas. And so we have polio coming back. And if that doesn't concern you, it's because you have no clue what polio is. Look it up. It's disturbing. So these are some of the things that are concerning me. You need to pay attention. I'm going to have a different lecture where I talk more about this kind of thing, so we can cover why more of this is happening and why you should actually pay attention and care. And I don't know, I would love to hear what you think might be reasons, but I can promise you it is not population control, and it's not the man or the government doing something. And no, the vaccines do not give you the diseases. So anything other than those things mentioned, I would like to know what you think might be the reason that these are going crazy, or why we keep having more viruses popping out, more outbreaks, more epidemics, and more pandemics. I want to know what you think. All right, our weather, it's been funky. So this is from 2021, just to show you from that. I would have used a 2022 one, but since right now is January 2nd, they haven't formulated the whole thing for 2022. So this is the best I could do. So for 2021, this little infographic is showing you a lot of the craziness that happened in 2021. I'm from the Atlanta area, so I decided to use this to show you what happened this year in the Atlanta area. In Atlanta, June 15th, we were 99 degrees. And December 24th, we were 8 degrees. This is not normal in the Atlanta area. Like, it's not. No matter where you are located, I promise you, this last cold snap, it was listed as a storm of a generation. Look at what happened. Look at how many people died in Buffalo from the crazy blizzard that dropped, no joke, 4 feet of snow in a couple of days. I think the last one I read was somewhere around 40 people who died. There's an area in Canada during that same storm that if you were outside for more than a couple of minutes, it would basically destroy your skin. It was like instant frostbite. It would kill your skin. Florida actually got to freezing. Florida. And I don't mean just North Florida. I'm talking Daytona, Orlando. I have my in-laws live in Boca Raton around Miami, and they got down in the 30s and 40s. Not normal. This is all based on what we're doing to the planet. This is part of environmental science. Which brings me to this final part. We're going to be covering a lot of this throughout the course. And some of it's going to be more in depth. Some of it's not. We're going to go through it all. My kids have told me I'm just basically a hippie. I mean, hello, I named my child Pax. And if you don't know what that is, Pax is Latin for peace. So I actually named my kid Peace. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a hippie, but I love this planet. Like, love this planet. And that's why I love this class. And it's why I try to get some of it through to you. A lot of that stuff was disturbing. So I give you this because it's so cute. But the problem is it's also very accurate. What we do now affects future generations. If we don't start to try to do something to make things better, you're going to have to start feeling bad for any kid who looks at you and says, when I grow up, I want to be, because they might not get that chance. And that's the truth. So that's what we'll be covering throughout this term. I'm trying to stop share. There we go. It got dark behind me. It's late, but I wanted to get this knocked out. So that's the overview. I hope you're ready for the environmental science class, because we are going to go into a lot of things. I am going to make you become aware of stuff you probably don't want to be aware of. And hopefully I'm going to cause you to think, because too many people don't think anymore. And I need each and every one of you to figure out how to think on your own, as in come up with your own thoughts and opinions, not what a political party told you, not what a clergyman told you, not what your mom or dad told you, not what a teacher told you, not even what I say. Everybody needs to start thinking for themselves, put the pieces together in order to actually, I don't know, have real critical thinking skills. Our nation, not just our nation, the world, but our nation very specifically, seems to lack a lot of critical thinking skills. And it's not that anyone's stupid, it's just, for lack of a better word, kind of lazy. So many people go by just a headline or a recap or Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter not so much anymore. But a lot of different little things. We have gotten lazy as a collective group of people that we don't want to take the time to really delve in, read all the words, and think. We would rather a recap and then just, oh yeah, there you go, and then act like you know something. And that's my big thing for this course. I want to challenge you to not do that. Don't take anything at face value. Nothing, not from anybody. Again, not even from me. If I say it and you're like, I'm not sure, research it, please. I want you to start thinking, really thinking, because if more people would actually think and put two and two together, we could really make a big change and have a much better planet for everybody. I think that's about it, because man, have I talked a lot, and this is way longer than I had intended, this overview video, but that happens all the time, right? Okay. Yeah, I guess that's it. Feel free to email me with any questions, and yeah, I guess that's it. Till next time, peace out.